In this lesson we'll render out our final image. So let's get rid of this node editor. We can do that by dragging the previous viewport, which was here, onto the new one. So we're going to click and drag from here onto there, and you can see there's an arrow, and that will get rid of that viewport. So now that we've got that, we can go into render settings. So this is where we go to set all of our quality settings. So you can see we've got the resolution, and if we're doing an animation we can do the start and end frames. We've also got the frame rate for the animation. By the way, if you have got multiple cameras in the scene, you would need to come into the scene tab here and just pick the camera from here. At the moment we've got shot cam, which is fine, but if we wanted to, we could just click in there and pick the camera if we've got multiple cameras, and that's the one that's going to render out when you press render. Very important, of course, rendering out the right camera. We could take a look at what this looks like at the moment. So if we press render, the image editor will come up and it's going to go through, and if you look on the top here you can see the rendering going on. If you want to cancel it, you can press this little X here to stop it from doing the rendering, and you can see it's pretty quick. I can zoom in here and this is what we get. Okay, so you can see that it's got some issues here. You've got the grain going on around here, so we need to turn up the quality here. So what I'm going to do is turn up the samples, and that will increase the render time, and it will also increase the quality. You can see up here it gives you some stats about how much memory is being used and the time it took to render that. So it took 10 seconds to render that, and it was frame 13. I'm not on frame 1 for some reason. Also, this is the image editor that comes up automatically. You can press escape to get rid of that. If you want to come out of this and go back to your regular view, just press escape. But let's just change this slot to slot number 2. So you can see there's nothing in this slot. This one has got this image here. So it's good to use these slots to compare your renders. Okay, so we're going to change the settings and we're going to compare and see if it's any good. So let's just change this to slot 2, and we'll come down to, just close this up here. I'm in the render settings here, the render tab, and we're going to come down to sampling, and we've got some presets here, so we can change this to final, and you can see the settings change, and it's changing a bunch of different settings inside there, and this is the samples overall here. So let's see what that comes out as with this final preset setting. So I'm going to press render again, come in here and press render. So now you can see it's taking a little bit longer, so each time it goes through one of these things it's going to take longer, and it's going to converge towards a result because it's using more samples. By the way, it depends on the speed of your computer, so this may be the point that your computer is kind of making a lot of noise, and the fan is going because the computer is doing a lot of work at the moment. So the faster your computer, the better this will go. I've got a quad core, so it's got a bunch of these little squares. Each of these little squares represents a thread. So I've got a quad core with 8 threads, so there should be 8 squares there. Okay, so that took 50 seconds, and you can see the difference between slot 1, like this, and slot 2 is a lot smoother, but I think we need to go further. So that took 50 seconds and the other one took 10 seconds. So I'm just going to bump this up and save you some time. So I'm just going to say 80 samples. So here's our render, and you can see that took around 9 minutes, and you can see it's a lot smoother there. Okay, so by the way, this is going to be half HD, so there's a section in here which says 50%. If you want to do the full HD, you can change that to 100% and it's going to save that. So I'm just going to save this image now. Go to image, save as image, and I'll just put that on the desktop with a PNG. So you can change that to JPEG if you want to. Just click on this and then you can choose JPEG here. But I'm just going to use a PNG because it's uncompressed, and choose room and turn off the compression here and then save. So in this lesson we set up our render settings and increased the samples so that we could get rid of the grain here, and rendered out and saved our final image.